Hey, what's up guys? Parker Wallbeck here with FulltimeFilmmaker.com, and today we're going to be doing a shotgun mic shootout. Currently, I own and use the Rode NTG-3 as my go-to mic for interviews, like what you're hearing right now. I've absolutely loved it, but I've noticed a lot of YouTubers using some more expensive options like the Sennheiser 416, the Schoeps CMIT 5U, and I've seen some cheaper options come out lately like the Deity S-Mic 2. And I've had some of you guys asking if you can just use your Rode VideoMic Pro as your boom mic. So I called my buddy Brendo here, who already owns all of these mics and knows way more about audio than I do, to help me run some tests to compare all 5 mics to help me know if I should upgrade to a more expensive option, and to help some of you guys know if some of those cheaper options can stack up well against the more expensive options. But before we start the test, big thanks to B&H Photo for sponsoring this video. They are my go-to online store for photo and video related gear. I found B&H to have the widest selection of professional high quality camera gear, not to mention they are the most reliable online store that I purchase from for delivering safe and on time. They also have amazing customer service and give options to chat with experts to help you in your purchasing decisions. So when they asked to sponsor one of my videos, I was proud to promote their services. In fact, just yesterday I bought the A7 III on their site, so look out for some Sony content coming up soon. But through my purchases, I haven't had a single complaint, so I highly recommend anyone who hasn't shopped with B&H online or in their New York location to start using them. You won't be disappointed. But let's now dive into the comparisons. So we ran several different tests in various scenarios like big neutral sounding rooms, small reflective rooms, outside, etc., to see how each mic performs in a wide variety of situations. So let's bring Brendo into the picture.
Hey!
Brendo is a professional audio engineer. He's boomed audio for TV shows, commercials, all kinds of high-end work. He knows what he's talking about. In this video, we're gonna be focusing on the 5 microphones that I mentioned, but we actually did the test between 8 different microphones. So if you wanna see a more in-depth test between more microphones, make sure to head over to Brendo's channel after this video. So for our first test, we recorded in a neutral indoor room with mics about 2 feet away in a very common recording situation. We wanted to see which mic sounds the most natural sounding, giving you the closest sound to that of what your ears would actually hear. And for this, we're going to be doing a blind test and let you listen to which one you think sounds the best, and I'll put a poll on your screen for you to vote for your favorite. Keep in mind, no post work has been done to these. They are all raw files. All we've done is match the volume levels, as some mics record slightly quieter than others. So check it out. This is the lobby. It is a large room to test out neutral sound. This is the lobby. It is a large room to test out neutral sound. This is the lobby. It is a large room to test out neutral sound. This is the lobby. It is a large room to test out neutral sound. This is the lobby. It is a large room to test out neutral sound. Test 1 2 3 4 5. 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 So go ahead and cast your vote. Let me know which one you thought sounded best. They all sounded pretty good to me. I had to listen to the test several times to pick out the differences. But as far as which mic I thought represented my voice the most naturally and cleanly, I would say I liked number 3 and number 5 the best, which were the NTG-3 and the CMIT. Number 4, the Sennheiser 416, was also great, but it did have a little bit too much bass. And since my voice is already pretty bassy, I don't want a mic that makes that bass even boomier. And that's something to keep in mind, is that one mic isn't always best for every type of voice. So if your voice is slightly higher, you may prefer the 416 over the NTG-3 for your voice. But moving on, number 2 was the Deity. It just sounded a little bit thin to me, not quite as clean. And number 1, the VideoMic Pro, sounded the most muffled and least clear compared to the rest of them. Brendo, what were your thoughts?
So I thought the CMIT was number 1 for me. It sounded the most smooth and like what I hear, like in person. And then the NTG-3 was next, where it was pretty close, but there was a slight bump in the low mids, and then the highs are a little bit artificial sounding compared to the CMIT, but really small stuff.
Right.
The 416 was next because there was a lot of low end boom with Parker's voice, like we talked about. My next choice was actually VideoMic Pro. It was muffled, but in this case, I would pick it over the Deity. The Deity to me was last place. It kind of sounded like a badly, poorly placed lav mic, where it was thin and hollow and had like a 2K push, so it was like a kind of a sound.
Okay, let's now move on to our next test. Which microphone does the best job at isolating isolating the voice and rejecting all of the off-axis noise. Off-axis meaning any noise that isn't directly in front of the microphone. So for this test, we went outside where there's some more noise from cars and Brendo talking in the background to see which can cut out unwanted noise and isolate the voice. Let's take a listen. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're gonna have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're gonna have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're gonna have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're gonna have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. Brendo's talking clear back there. You're gonna have people talking. He's like 20, 30, almost 40 feet away. 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 So this is where the CMIT really shines, and one of the big things you're paying for is its ability to pull only what's in front of it while cutting everything else around it out. I did think the CMIT sounded best on this one, cutting out Brendo's laugh, but not by a ton. I thought the NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416 were about equal to my ears on this one, and the VideoMic Pro slightly behind them, and the Deity I thought took last again, as Brendo's laugh seemed slightly louder on this microphone. 40 feet away, 40 feet away.
So my top pick would be the CMIT as well. It sounded the most isolated. The close second would be the 416 and the NTG-3, and then VideoMic Pro, and then the last would be the Deity for the same reasons. It just seemed to pick up a lot of stuff.
Moving on to test number 3 is going to be the moving subject. Anyone who has filmed interviews knows that there's nothing worse than when your subject leans back really far or leans forward and you lose that clarity of their voice.
It's the worst.
So for this test, we're gonna see which mic holds the best clarity even when the mic isn't pointed directly at the subject. Take a listen. Test 1, 2, 3. 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 Now again, I thought they all did a great job. None of them really stood out any more than the others, so I will defer to Brendo's judgment on this one.
You bet. Yeah, so to me, they were all pretty close. And this one, we're splitting hairs, right? And one thing to note is the mic placement that we did. And we did a really good job of placing the mics, anticipating the sudden movements.
Right.
Because a lot of times, people get as close as they can, just barely out of frame. And if they get on set with someone who isn't, on-screen talent or hasn't done it a long time, like a CEO of a company, they're going to do this. They're going to go all over. They're going to get in and out of your mic. So if you're like right here, you're going to capture their forehead. So if you place the mics to anticipate the movement, you scoot it back just a little bit, then that will make sure that you get a lot of good off-axis rejection and, controlled sound, even if they move a lot. But that being said, if I had to choose one, I thought that the NTG-3 sounded the best. It sounded the most consistent to my ears.
Okay.
And that's why I often recommend the NTG-3 to people who are just getting started booming or someone who's not very experienced, because it, has a great sound. And it's probably the most forgiving when your subject isn't perfectly in the sweet spot the whole time.
Right.
Close behind was the 416 and the Deity, and then the VideoMic Pro. Last was the CMIT, which makes sense because it's the best at the isolation and blocking all that other stuff out. But that's a drawback to be aware of because it isolates the sound so well. If you get out of that sweet spot, it's really going to just cut off your sound.
Makes sense. The con to the pro. All right, so for our next test, we're gonna go outside again, and we're gonna put all the mics 5 feet away this time from our subject, because sometimes when you're booming a scene and you're trying to get a wide shot, you have to put that mic out of frame, which can be a lot farther away from your subject than you want. So which mic is gonna do the best job in the wide shot scenario? Let's take a listen.
It's like
that is Brendo in the background talking to see how well these can cut out his voice.
It's like
that is Brendo in the background talking to see how well these can cut out his voice.
It's like
that is Brendo in the background talking to see how well these can cut out his voice.
It's like
that is Brendo in the background talking to see how well these can cut out his voice. That is Brendo in the background talking to see how well these can cut out his voice. That is Brendo in the background. 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 Now, I thought the NTG-3 and the Sennheiser 416 both sounded about the same and the best of all of them. The CMIT also sounded really good, except when the mic is this far away, you could start to hear that noise floor pickup, so I put that in third place. Then the VideoMic Pro came in fourth, as it's not as clear. And in this test, I could really hear that thin sound of the Deity. Just, what's that noise?
The 2K shushy.
The 2K shushy noise. That is Brendo in the background. That is Brendo in the background. Brendo's thoughts.
My thoughts are the CMIT would take first. It sounded the most isolated and it was pulling the voice the best to my ears. NTG-3 and 416 tied. And then the VideoMic Pro was next. And then last was the Deity because it just seemed to pick up everything. Like, I would go with the VideoMic Pro over the Deity in this situation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is Brendo in the background. That is Brendo in the background. All right, so our last and final test is the echo room. How well do the mics do in a terribly reflective room, isolating the voice and rejecting all those echoes? Let's take a listen. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place. We are now in a reflective room where the walls are just bouncing my voice all over the place, 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 bouncing my voice all over the place. Now, to me, they all sounded equally nasty. I couldn't pick out which one was particularly better, so again, I will defer to your judgment and your beautiful ears.
Yeah, you bet. Well, they're all bad. Right? They all sounded pretty awful because the room is awful. But I'd have to say that the CMIT seemed to pull the voice out the best, but not by much.
Bouncing my voice all over the place. 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 All right, there you guys have it. Those are the test results. I think the NTG-3 suits my voice and my type of shooting the best, but the CMIT and the 416 are just as good and better in certain scenarios. They are just different. You really can't go wrong with any of them, and to 99% of viewers, no one is going to be able to tell the difference. That having been said, since the NTG-3 is the least expensive of those three, I'd say it's the one I recommend most. And I don't say that just because it's the one that I already own. I literally had that 416 in my shopping cart ready to check out, but decided to give Brendo a call first and ask his opinion, which led to us making this comparison. Right. And I'm glad I did because I discovered that the 416 doesn't actually sound as good with my deeper, boomy voice. So for me personally, the NTG-3 is my favorite choice, not to mention it's $300 cheaper than the 416. As for the CMIT, I know Brendo loves it, but I don't see enough of a difference to justify that extra $1,500 or so. The Deity, I personally think, is a great cheap option for those who can't afford the NTG-3. It's half the price, and if you didn't hear it next to these mics, again, 99% of people probably wouldn't be able to tell which mic you were using and that it was any worse than someone else's. And to answer that one question that we both get all the time, can't I just boom with my VideoMic Pro? The answer is yes, you can, and surprisingly, it didn't do too shabby. Right. It wasn't too bad. Yeah. Brendo, give us your final thoughts.
I would love to.
Please do.
Thanks for inviting me. I am a little bit surprised by the results, and particularly in these areas. So I thought and really wanted the Deity to be a better mic. If it were your only mic, you probably wouldn't notice the shushiness.
2K shushy, right?
But putting it next to these other microphones, to me, it was a massive red flag. It was just blaring, you know. Another one of the biggest surprises to me was how similar the NTG-3 and the 416 were.
Right.
On so many of the tests, they were nearly identical. The biggest difference I noticed is the NTG-3 is a hair brighter in some applications, and if it's pushed too hard, it could be associated with the cheap high-end. But honestly, that would come up so rarely in an issue, like as an issue, that it's hard to even say that it's better or worse. They're pretty equal. Plus, working in the field a lot with both mics, like I mentioned, the NTG-3 is a lot easier to boom with. The off-axis rejection is way more forgiving.
More beginner friendly.
Yeah, easy. I started on the NTG-3 and then I got the 416 and I'm like, I mean, it's a lot more of a challenge and it, to me, doesn't really improve the tone or the usability of the whole thing as a whole. And I know audio guys are going to fight me on that. and fight me on that. The CMIT 5U is a phenomenal microphone all around. It's got onboard high shelf. It's got onboard low cuts to reduce handling noise like cable banging and wind noise. It's also one of the most natural sounding microphones that I've ever heard. What you hear with your ears, it's going to be what's going in your recorder. So overall for me, the lesson learned is this. Number one, make sure that you're shooting in an acoustically decent room. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the echo space was really difficult to judge because they all sounded so bad. Number two, mic placement is everything. So like we said, if we had the mic super close to Parker's head, especially on the off-axis stuff, it would be significantly different results. So make sure that you put your mics in a great spot, buying yourself some wiggle room. Number three, you get what you pay for. With the cheap microphones, even though they're a bang for a buck, I would not recommend getting them. I'd recommend saving up for something like an NTG-3. It's going to make all the difference. And if you can't afford new, look around for a used one. I bought an NTG-3 used for $300, so miracles do happen. So honestly, when it comes down to it, the thing that you need to do is learn the microphones, okay? Because the difference is they weren't as big as I thought they would be. I thought we'd see a lot more drastic results, right?
They were pretty close in comparison.
Yeah, they were really close. And so to me, it's all about learning the tools that you have, and it's the same thing with filmmaking. You know,
use what you got, learn how to use it well to its fullest potential.
Exactly.
All right, there you guys have it. Hopefully that helps you guys know which is the best microphone for you and what to look for when buying a microphone. And you can buy all these mics at B&H Photo in the description below. Big thanks to B&H Photo once more for sponsoring this video, and also big thanks to Brendo for coming on over here today and helping us learn more about audio. This guy is an audio wizard. Guys, head over to his channel, subscribe if you want to learn more about audio. You can check out his 8-mic shootout by clicking over here. Also, make sure to check out my free 1-hour filmmaking training if you guys haven't already, where I teach my top 10 tips to getting cinematic shots and how to make money making videos. You can check that out over here. And lastly, guys, don't forget to subscribe. And if you have any further questions, please let me know.
Do you want me in this shot, or do you just want to talk about the fame there?